Welcome to Mitzvah Expo, the Jewish Community Organization Showcase hosted by Rabbi Cantor Dr. Linda Bernstein.
Shalom and welcome to Mitzvah Expo, a new podcast and website showcasing the organizations and initiatives that enhance Jewish life, fight injustice, support Israel, strengthen our ties to the broader community, and more. I'm Rabbi Linda. Our goal is simple. We want you to get informed and be inspired by the work these valuable Jewish organizations do on our behalf every day. Alongside this podcast, our website at mitzvahexpo.org serves as a companion hub. There you'll find a showcase page for every organization featured on the program, with more information about their work and ways to connect with them. Today, our Mitzvah Expo featured organization is the Skirball Cultural Center. I'm pleased to welcome Jessie Kornberg, who serves as its president and chief executive officer. Kornberg began her role at the Skirball in July of 2020. She has dedicated her career to dismantling systemic inequality, having spent 2 decades working for organizations including Beit Tzedek, the NAACP, and National Organization for Women, before founding Ms. JD, an online community dedicated to supporting and advancing the careers of women in the legal profession. She currently serves as a trustee for the Los Angeles Urban League, the Motion Picture and Television Fund, and the Girl Scouts of the USA. Open to the public since 1996, the Skirball is one of the world's most dynamic Jewish cultural institutions and among the leading cultural venues in Los Angeles. It is a place of meeting, guided by the Jewish tradition of welcoming the stranger, and inspired by the American democratic ideals of freedom and equality. Permanent exhibitions include Visions and Values, Jewish Life from Antiquity to America, and Noah's Ark at the Skirball. Temporary exhibitions include Outsiders, Outcasts, Rebels and Weirdos, Punk Culture 1976 to 86, Robert Russell and Lisa Edelstein, A Palace in Time, Inventing America, The Comic Book Revolution, and Common Ground by Adam Silverman. Other valuable offerings include school programs, free online curriculum, and public programs. Welcome to Mitzvah Expo. I'm Rabbi Linda Bernstein, and we are very honored today to have Jessie Kornberg, the president and CEO of the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. Jessie, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's such a pleasure. I'm so happy to be with you.
Great. Well, as I mentioned earlier, before we began the program, the Skirball Cultural Center is the first sort of cultural organization that we are featuring on Mitzvah Expo. So very excited to hear about it. And in looking and preparing for today's program, I see just a whole array of things that you do at the Skirball Cultural Center. And so I'm very excited to share that with our audience at Mitzvah Expo. And so we'll learn more about it. Even if you're not in the Los Angeles area, we'd love to share what's going on there. And maybe there's some ways that we can also take advantage of it, even though we're not in LA.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great.
I can't wait to share.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So maybe just tell us a little bit about what you do as the president and CEO and like how long you've been with the organization. What brought you there?
Well, I joke, I just try to get out of the way. Right? And, we can talk at some point about what leadership requires. And my job is equal parts leadership and management. I'm helping people untangle complex problems and I'm helping people cope with change. That's how I think of my role. But I think the history of the Skirball Cultural Center is really interesting for Jewish community organizations nationwide. So I'll start with a brief background if that's helpful.
Sure.
First, because if you're in the Jewish communal world, maybe you've heard the name Skirball, even if you don't know about the Skirball Cultural Center. And that's a credit to our namesake, Jack Skirball. So what the Skirball story really begins in Cincinnati, Ohio, about 150 years ago at the Hebrew Union College, which begins a study collection of rare books and manuscripts for their students. And over the decades, that collection grows for different reasons into the largest collection of Jewish ritual art and object in the United States of America. And that collection moves from Cincinnati, Ohio, the site of the first Jewish museum in the United States. That collection moves to Los Angeles in the late 1970s, thanks to a matching grant from Jack Skirball, who at the time was the chair of the Board of Governors of the Hebrew Union College. And it moves to Los Angeles under the leadership of a young visionary leader at HUC and of the Reform movement, Rabbi Dr. Uri Hersher. And Dr. Hersher is credited as the founder of what we now think of as the Skirball Cultural Center. He has this idea for a non-theological cultural destination that celebrates Jewish American history and values and community. And that spins out of the Hebrew Union College to the site you see behind me. And Jack really believes in that vision, and he and his wife, Audrey, and his foundation make the gift that makes the building of our campus possible. And so today, the Skirball, designed by amazing architect Moshe Safdie, today the Skirball is 15 acres in the Santa Monica Mountains overlooking Los Angeles. We have that museum collection and 10 galleries and exhibitions in any given year. Some temporary. Today, we have a punk exhibition, an American comic books exhibition, and a beautiful contemporary painting exhibition, along with our ongoing exhibitions, the most popular children's museum destination in Los Angeles, Noah's Ark at the Skirball, and our permanent collection exhibition, Visions and Values. And then we've got, on any given day, classes, school tours, performance, lectures, about 500 programs a year, including about 250 programs where we provide the venue and community organizations use our site for their convenings, their events. So there's a lot going on, and I can't wait to welcome all of you to the Skirball.
We are excited to come. In fact, I've been there before, and I was really just fascinated by all the different things that you have to offer. What do you feel is your mission as an organization, particularly pertaining to the Jewish community and also to the community at large?
Absolutely. The mission statement begins with the phrase, "We are a place of gathering inspired by the Jewish tradition of welcoming the stranger." And you really feel that all day, every day at the Skirball. It really is about bringing people together physically in a place and doing it with a particular emphasis on an arms wide open. We literally have one of our biggest buildings on campus is designed in the spirit of the tent of Abraham, right? And this idea that like your tent flaps are open before you even know who's coming, right? It's
All
how
is well.
we think of being Jewish. And it's how we think about sharing what it means to be Jewish to all kinds of visitors. We have about 500,000 visitors a year, and most of them are not Jews. And every one of them should have a Jewish experience at the Skirball. And we want that Jewish experience to start with this kind of surprise of like, wow, it's so nice to be here. Everyone's saying, hi, can I help you? Everyone's saying, welcome to the Skirball. We want every single person who comes to the Skirball leaving both realizing that they've had a Jewish experience and feeling really good about that, and feeling like, gosh, this whole place was like built just for me, And so that's how we think about our mission.
And how do you distinguish yourself from other Jewish organizations like a JCC's or other Jewish museums around the country?
Yeah. Well, I think we're different from a museum because we have a lot more going on. So we are museum plus, right? And some of the things we do feel a lot like a Jewish museum. And then some of the things we do might feel more interactive, more cultural, food programming, dance programming, words and ideas, classes, community events, a 3,000 person Hanukkah festival, that might feel more like a JCC. Or more like any community art space. And so I think it's sort of like a Jewish museum plus a JCC plus a community site plus a garden plus 2 cafes plus retail plus. Right?
So it's kind of your own brand of Skirball Cultural Center. It's just like a center for culture and of all sorts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for folks who are more familiar with New York, sometimes I try to say, oh, it's like the Jewish Museum plus the 92nd Street Y plus the JCC plus a park, right? And then for folks in LA, they will quickly say, oh, I know the Skirball. That's where I go for my fill in the blank, and depending on who you're talking to in LA, it could be lunch with my grandmother, Noah's Ark with my grandkids, prom, everything in between.
Wow. So you've got all the bases covered in a sense. Now, you mentioned one Jewish value, which was, welcoming the stranger. Are there other Jewish values that guide your work as well?
Yeah, so we've articulated 6 Jewish values. We've talked about welcoming the stranger. All 6 are rooted in Torah and Talmud, and so have a sort of ancient textual foundation with a Skirball interpretation. And so some of the other values we talk about are seeking learning and how important it is first to study before you act. We talk about pursuing justice and this idea of making sure that everyone is safe and that we are fair to others. We talk about honoring memory. That's actually the value we talk about first in a lot of contexts, that none of us are anything if we don't understand where we've come from and who came before us, and that history is where we find the strength we need on our hardest days, and ancestors are where we find the strength we need on our hardest days. We talk about showing kindness, and that's a lot of what people feel and say back to us when we kind of demonstrate that idea of welcome, is this idea of kindness. So those are some of the things we talk about. And then, of course, the biggest one and sort of the overall is building community, and the idea of Judaism and of Jewish culture as a fundamentally communal experience, that we don't do this alone.
When you think of Jewish culture, do you think of like that's sort of core to being Jewish, is to have a cultural element to the Jewish experience?
I think there's a lot of ways to be Jewish. And so for some people, that culture is the core way to be Jewish. And then for some people, it's really about belief. And then for some people, it's really about ethics. And then for some people, it's really about family, and on and on and on. And I think one of the things I like the best about the Skirball is however you are Jewish, that's the perfect way. And that could include being not Jewish at all, right? And that's really the heart of the idea of our Jewish welcome, is come as you are and find yourself here. Like, let's have a sufficient diversity of offerings that whoever walks in the door, they find what they need and who they want to be.
That's great. So one thing I notice is that you have things for all generations, from kids up to seniors. So what's your kind of philosophy about that in terms of drawing in families, drawing in all generations?
Yeah, that's always been at the core of the Skirball's mission and practice. I would say right now, in this moment, it feels particularly valuable to offer intergenerational experiences of all the things that divide us: politics, community, race, religion, you name it. I find the generational divides are sometimes the hardest to bridge. And so if we can be a really nice, fun, welcoming, easy place to spend time with somebody older or younger than you, we feel like that's a really distinct contribution to communal life in Los Angeles.
In order to have something for everyone in that regard, whether it's age variations or it's just background, ethnic background, or educational background, you probably have to kind of select very carefully the collections that you do present. And I was trying to kind of characterize them: a little bit eclectic, a little traditional, a little modern. Kind of what's your philosophy about the best mix for the Skirball to be offering?
Yeah. So first of all, there's a really important distinction between what you said, which is exactly what we're trying to do, have something for everyone, versus thinking everything is for everyone. I think the first piece is to acknowledge that we have a really broad range of potential visitors, and not everything is for everyone. So when you're making sure that there's something for everyone, it starts with identifying what are the types of visitors that are coming and what do they need and want. right? And then catering to those different visitors in different ways. And the person I quote maybe more than anybody is LL Cool J, for us, by us, FUBU, right? No one of us knows what every different person wants. You got to go to the source, right? So one basic practice is making sure that the people who are making content decisions, the artists, the teachers, that they are really incorporating direct input from their desired audience. So before we put a new curriculum in one of our school programs, it's market tested with students and teachers and caregivers, right? And we get their feedback, and maybe sometimes they even change the design. So what I would say is, number one, we're trying not to alienate anybody. That's different than catering to everyone all the time. Try not to alienate anybody. And that means being safe for little kids, right? So our content, right now we have a punk rock show. That punk rock content is edited because there might be mature content, but a toddler needs to be able to get lost and stumble into that gallery and be safe, right? And so that's one kind of lane line you got to stay in. And then at the other side, I would say we want to challenge our audiences and assume that they are capable of complicated, tense grappling. Like, that's the most Jewish way to be, right? And so we're also not shying away from presenting ideas that are in tension with one another and trusting audiences to grapple with that. And so that we don't shy away from something just because it's complicated. So at any given time, we want it to be Jewish. We want to think about core Jewish American experiences around immigration, belonging, inclusion, civil rights. How is it that Jews have thrived in this country? What do we want to learn from that? So a lot of our stories hit on those themes with those lane lines. Don't be afraid of complexity. Make sure it's safe for little kids.
Those are two great guidelines. And also, I guess just willingness to experiment a little bit, because I think that's how you stay fresh, and that's how you become sensitive to what the changes are in the culture, in the society as we go forward. So being nimble enough to be able to do that is great. Education is a huge component of the Skirball. And how does that take place? Like you mentioned that you test programs in classrooms, and that's one way. But what are the kinds of educational programs that you do offer, both for parents and children and for teachers as a resource tool?
Yeah, so the heart of all of our education work really starts in our school programs, and we're, destination for 30,000 school children, either with an organized school tour or an after school or recreational care provider, like a summer camp or, something like that. So we have school programs for pre-K through 12, and those are curriculums designed for sort of age-appropriate growth from Noah's Ark all the way up through maybe right now our temporary exhibition on comic books, for example. There's an archaeological curriculum that's based in our archaeological collection, and then we actually have dig pits. People can, this is really designed for 4th to 7th graders. They get out there with their brushes and their picks, and they think about what we can understand about the past and the present from these artifacts. And so it runs the gamut from that social emotional learning in Noah's Ark, where we're thinking about second chances, to that middle ground where we're thinking about identity and destination, all the way up to, our high school students who are really thinking about who are they going to be and where are they going to go. Our education department, we're in LA. So, lean into your assets, right? We're in LA. This is a city of incredibly talented, creative people. So most of our educators are artists. They are performers, storytellers, puppeteers, dancers, singers. And so our education team is an ensemble. And coming here, you're not just exposed to art on the walls, but you are engaging with an artist. So that's a lot of fun. And then this year we expanded our offerings to include a learning garden, which we're just so lucky to be able to do. So it's a Jewish permaculture design, and it's for both adult and young learners to get their hands dirty, harvest, and understand how we take care of the land in a sustainable way, informed by ancient agriculture. So that's been a really great environmental science curriculum we added on this year. And then beyond school programs, we think about a lifetime of learning. And so those are everything from book clubs and book groups to lecture series, small classes, applied arts classes, and on and on. Mahjong is a really popular class right now.
So do all these things occur at the Skirball Cultural Center versus programs that might be exportable to classrooms around LA or in Jewish day schools or whatever?
Yeah, we are really lucky. In 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, we had the opportunity to build a full digital suite for our pre-K through 3 curriculum design based in Noah's Ark. So that's Art of Imagination, which continues to be an invaluable resource at home and in class for those who can't make it to the Skirball today. So that's an incredible opportunity to see what we're doing over and over again. We actually know people like to tune in and sing those songs with their toddlers over and over again, especially when they want to go to Noah's Ark and today's just not the right day. And so that can be experienced anywhere. We do have school-based residencies. They're fairly limited. So we just have a few of those any given year. Everything else is here.
So anybody who's listening on any part of the country could actually tune into some of your programs via Zoom or webcam or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a YouTube channel with recordings of all kinds of programs at the Skirball. And then the Art of Imagination curriculum is on our website. And there are all kinds of, you can print out worksheets and arts and crafts projects, all that kind of good stuff.
Wonderful. Well, while you mention it, why don't you tell us what your website is so that people know how to tune in?
Skirball.org, Skirball.org.
Wonderful. So you mentioned some of your main exhibits that you've got going on. Are there any exciting upcoming exhibits you can give us a preview of?
Absolutely. So we are excited to be working with an artist in residence named Jenny Yershansky. She's a participatory artist, a series of workshops this year, working with community members to identify everyday heirlooms that represent their family's immigration story. Jenny herself is twice a refugee, a Jewish artist born originally in Russia, who has moved twice to find safety and freedom of religion, eventually coming here to the United States. And she has this beautiful practice of identifying these objects that represent those journeys, thinking about what we carry with us when we seek refuge and how we bring the past into our lives. And she 3D prints replicas of those. They look like almost like ivory, the way that they come out. But of course, they're an environmentally sustainable practice. And that show will come in the fall, displays of those objects and the stories that they represent. So I'm really looking forward to that. We had an amazing series of programs on Black Jewish solidarity, both looking backwards and thinking about the future. And that was a program that was really designed and executed by our artist in residence in 2024, Patrice Colors. And she has created a really big sort of culmination piece, both a video and audio sensory experience that captures what we experienced during those programs and what we learned about how to build a sense of solidarity. And that show will also open in the fall, which I'm really looking forward to.
Does that have some sort of shared cultural elements like music and things like that
absolutely
tie us together? Yeah.
Yeah. And thinking about that, that was immediately after October 7th. And so it really started with healing, just thinking about what it takes to heal. Yeah. And so that project is coming in the fall. And we have a really beautiful Judy Chicago show coming about a year from now, which I'm excited about, and more to share soon.
Excellent. If someone wants to give philanthropically to the Skirball Cultural Center, what would they be supporting when they do that? And how can they do it?
So most of what I just described for you is offered free of charge. That's what you're supporting, is access to fine art, to Jewish culture, to community experience. So museum admission, school programs, education programs, concerts all summer, festivals all year. We keep it accessible because of our philanthropic support. And a third of our operating budget is donated by really dedicated, incredible champions who believe in keeping access to the Skirball open to everyone.
So for more information about the Skirball, another place you can go is at mitzvahexpo.org. The Skirball Cultural Center has a showcase page on the website, and that's where you can get some of the links and to some of the programs that we've been talking about and read more about it. So I hope you do.
Yeah.
Our listeners out there and viewers, please go to the mitzvahexpo.org to see the Skirball Cultural Center showcase page. So what are some other ways that people can get involved at the Skirball Culture Center, other than, let's say, buying an admissions ticket? I mean, do you have like a membership? Are there volunteer opportunities? Ways that people could bring their classrooms in to visit with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes to membership. We would love to have you join our community and sort of say yes to this idea. Also, volunteerism powers every best experience at the Skirball. Our greeters, our docents, many of our educators, all volunteers. We have more than 200 volunteers. Being a docent and a volunteer at the Skirball is signing up for more Jewish learning. We have dedicated Jewish learning programming for docents and volunteers at the Skirball every month. And that has been true since we opened the Skirball campus 30 years ago. They are the beating heart of our Jewish welcome. We would love for you to volunteer at the Skirball. The typical image of a docent or a volunteer is often a retiree or maybe an empty nester. And that is a great time in your life to lean into a community organization experience like this. But we also have interns. They're not volunteers, they're paid, but they are so essential to our work as well. So we welcome people at all stages of life to get involved in the way that's right for them. And then, coming with a group is so much fun. We do private tours for groups of up to 20. You can have a docent lead a private tour of an exhibition, and then we can set you up with like a fancy brunch or a nice lunch to follow. That's my favorite way to come to the Skirball, is with friends. Though I also often say, sometimes people come for the first time and they're like, wow, I didn't know this. And, oh, they see someone they recognize and, oh, this is my favorite. And I always say, come to the Skirball. Your friends are already here.
That sounds like an absolute vibrant place and it's incredibly interesting to visit and participate in, and fun as well. Yeah.
It is a big dose of Jewish joy for sure.
That's great. I mean, it's great that you can support it. Unfortunately, in San Francisco, we just had the closing of the Jewish Contemporary Museum, which is very sad. So, in your view, is there hope for Jewish culture going forward, and how do you kind of see that in the future?
Yeah, I would put the closing of the Jewish Contemporary Museum in San Francisco in the context of the closing of a lot of museums nationwide. So this is a really hard time for cultural institutions and cultural nonprofits. The pandemic was brutal to institutions and organizations that relied on admission for their business model. And that was, really tough for CJM and a lot of other museums across the country. We're very lucky at the Skirball that our business model has philanthropy and earned revenue beyond admissions tickets to keep us stable through really tough challenges. So I'd love to make a case for museums right now. We're in this moment socially where there is a loss of trust in traditional institutions and positions of authority, whether you're thinking about our government or our news sources. There is just this fundamental lack of trust, this erosion of sort of community cohesion in all of these different places. And museums are the exception. More than 90% of Americans say that they trust the information that they get in a museum. And that's two things we have to know about that. Number one, we can't mess this up, right? We have to continue to earn the trust and deserve the trust, but let's not waste it. And so, what I said before, that we think our audiences can handle complexity and deserve our trust in them with tough ideas and tough questions, we shouldn't shy away from that, but we have to continue to be trustworthy as we invite audiences in to grapple with the biggest questions in their lives. And I think for Jewish community in particular, museums offer that opportunity to take a step away from the headlines and a step away from the fight and just get back into core values and shared history and remind ourselves of all that we have in common that will help us go back to the news and go back to the fight with that grounding in our common interests. And I think that that's a really important service to provide Jewish community right now. And I know my Jewish museum colleagues around the country are so dedicated to this work.
I think it's a wonderful way to end the program today. Is there any final message you'd like to give to our viewers on Mitzvah Expo about the Skirball Cultural Center?
Well, I hope you will come soon. We cannot wait to have you. And wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jessie Kornberg, President and CEO of the Skirball Cultural Center. Just give us your website one final time and we'll be signing out.
I'll see you on skirball.org.
Wonderful. Thank you again. And I hope to see you all next time in Mitzvah Expo podcast, and check out mitzvahexpo.org. Have a great day, everyone. My special thanks to President and CEO Jessie Kornberg for joining me today and sharing the exciting programs, exhibitions, and offerings of the Skirball Cultural Center with our Mitzvah Expo audience. To learn more about the Skirball Cultural Center and the other organizations featured on our program, visit our showcase pages on mitzvahexpo.org. While you're there, we invite you to join the Mitzvah Expo community so you can stay up to date on future programs, featured organizations, and events. We invite you to also share a mitzvah you've done in your own life or community. Your good deed may inspire others and help highlight the many ways people can make a difference. You can listen to Mitzvah Expo on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and listen or watch on YouTube, and of course at mitzvahexpo.org. If you enjoyed the program, please follow or subscribe so more people can discover the inspiring work happening across the Jewish community. And we'd love to hear from you. Please write to me at rabbilindabernstein@gmail.com with your comments and suggestions for future featured Jewish organizations. Get informed, be inspired. For Mitzvah Expo, I'm Rabbi Linda Bernstein.
You've been listening to Mitzvah Expo. Learn more at mitzvahexpo.org.
Mitzvah Expo is a production of Vita Media Corporation.